Hey, it's Ray. Tonight's story? Buckle in, because when office politics, power, and betrayal collide, the fallout is nuclear. This letter came from a woman who played the long game. Her husband thought he owned the room. She reminded him who built the house. If you've ever been underestimated, this one's for you. Oh, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you've ever caught someone who thought they were too clever to get caught. Let's dive in. My husband, Darren, had the kind of smile that made people trust him too quickly. At parties, people gravitated toward him like he carried light in his pocket. And at work, he was a rising star. Tech-savvy, smooth-talking, relentless. The kind of man who shook hands with executives like he already belonged in their world. I watched him climb the corporate ladder with calculated charm, each promotion just another rung he stepped over like it was owed to him. At home, he played the role of the perfect husband, clean suits, cooked dinners, forehead kisses. But behind the flash, something always felt off. I wasn't blind. I was patient. When Darren got the promotion to Director of Innovation, he acted like he'd just won an Oscar. He rented out a rooftop bar for a party that nobody asked for, ordered champagne in bulk, and even got himself a custom leather chair delivered to his new office. He made sure everyone knew. But the piece de resistance? The morning after, he sent a company-wide email with the subject line, "From cubicle to corner office," a reminder that hustle wins. I nearly gagged. The email was 4 paragraphs of smugness. He thanked no one, just boasted. He signed off with, "Let this be proof that real ambition always gets noticed." An hour later, as if summoned by the arrogance in his message, my phone buzzed with a message that would detonate everything. No name, no warning, just a number I didn't recognize and the words, "Check who your husband's been hustling with. You deserve better." There were screenshots attached. I sat down. The first one showed Darren in a hotel suite, shirtless, holding a glass of wine. The caption read, "Missing this already winking face." The second was a thread of messages. Flirty, explicit, sickening. But what made my stomach twist wasn't just the affair. It was who he was having it with. Miranda Lawson, our CEO's wife. Yes, that Miranda. The woman who wore designer silence and arrived at every event 30 minutes late just to make an entrance. She was gorgeous, cold, and bored. Everything Darren couldn't resist. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. The texts kept coming. Hotel bookings, flight receipts, one where Darren called Miranda his real partner. I stared at my phone, heart pounding like a warning siren. The perfect marriage. A facade. And now it was cracked wide open. But here's the thing. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I smiled. Because if Darren thought he'd played the game well, he had no idea who he just invited to the table. I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. That would be predictable. Emotional. Weak. No, I was going to sit in the quiet and sharpen every piece of this betrayal into a weapon. By the time he walked in that night, humming and talking about how the board was eating out of his palm, I had already saved every screenshot to an encrypted folder. I kissed him on the cheek, asked him how his day went, and when he laughed and said, "You married a winner, babe," I nearly laughed too. Because he had no idea the game had already shifted. And I wasn't just going to win. I was going to make sure he never played again. I spent the next 3 nights learning every angle of their affair. It wasn't just a fling, it was an empire of secrets. They had burner emails, hidden calendar invites, code names. Darren was Wolf. Miranda was Scarlet. How poetic. These 2 idiots thought they were starring in some twisted spy film. Except the director? That was me now. I mapped out every meeting they had over the last 6 months. Business trips that suddenly made sense. Client dinners that never involved clients. There was one booking at a hotel 5 blocks from our apartment. They hadn't even bothered to be discreet. I could see Darren's credit card charge and Miranda's car rental timestamp. She parked in the alley, like a thief. By day, I played the supportive wife, packed Darren's gym bag, left motivational notes on his mirror. He called me the glue that held everything together. If he only knew I was using that glue to piece together a demolition plan. Then came the day Miranda slipped up. I was sitting at the company holiday planning meeting. Yes, I'm in the events team, and Miranda, who rarely spoke to lower-tier staff, accidentally called me darling in front of everyone. It was how Darren used to say it. Soft, dripping with guilt. Her eyes flicked to mine, then down. And just like that, I knew. She was scared. She knew someone new. Perfect. Because I was about to rip their little fantasy castle apart, brick by smug little brick. The first thing I did was send the screenshots, every single one, to a trusted friend in IT. Someone who owed me a favor after I helped him out of a harassment scandal years ago. His name was Malik, and he didn't ask questions. He just said, "Tell me what to look for." Email traces, meeting logs, anything that ties Darren and Miranda through company servers. He whistled low. "This is gonna be messy." "Oh, honey," I said, smiling. "You have no idea." Malik delivered. In 2 days, he had everything. Not only had Darren been using his work email to book their meetups, but Miranda had been forwarding company reports to Darren's private Gmail. Confidential forecasts. Strategic memos. Stuff she shouldn't even be opening without board clearance. Suddenly, this wasn't just an affair. It was espionage. I sat on that knowledge like a landmine, waiting for the right moment to step on it. I didn't want revenge. I wanted exposure. Public, humiliating, career-ending exposure. But Darren, being Darren, gave me the perfect opportunity. 1 week later, he forwarded that same smug from cubicle to corner office email again, but this time with a PDF attachment titled, "My Blueprint to Executive Success." He copied everyone, staff, board, investors. It was narcissism dipped in cologne. And as I sat at my desk reading that garbage, I decided, tomorrow, 9 a.m., I would reply all. Not with words, but with evidence. Screenshots, emails, a full thread, every kiss and tell message, every forwarded report, all in one neat, blistering PDF titled, "When Ambition Gets Too Comfortable." At exactly 9 a.m., I opened Darren's email one more time, just to savor the arrogance. "Hard work pays off," he wrote. "Grateful for my mentors. Humbled to serve as your new executive strategy officer." It was signed with one of those fake deep quotes he loved. Leadership is not about titles, it's about impact. I rolled my eyes, took a deep breath, and hit reply all. The subject line, Blueprint to Executive Success, a different kind of strategy. I attached the PDF. No explanation. No commentary. Just the proof. Over 80 pages of screenshots, emails, texts, calendar invites, even the company files Miranda had sent Darren under her board credentials. The final page? A photo of the two of them in a hotel lobby, her in that red coat she swore she'd lost, him holding her waist like they were married. Within 2 minutes, the office Slack went dead. Then came the sound I had waited for. Gasps. Loud. Unfiltered. Chairs scraping. One person dropped their coffee. Someone whispered, "Is this real?" Yes. Very real. I didn't watch Darren open it. I didn't need to. I could feel the energy shift across the floor like an earthquake had just hit the building. I just sat at my desk, sipping my coffee, like nothing happened. Like I wasn't the woman who just detonated a corporate love bomb. Then my work phone rang. Unknown extension. I answered calmly. "Who is this?" It was Tom, the CFO. "Emily, Darren's wife." Also, events coordinator. Silence. Then, we need to talk. Now. They took me into conference room B, Tom, legal, and Miranda's assistant, Claire, who looked like she'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Tom tapped the PDF printout like it was a live grenade. How long have you known? I smiled politely. Long enough to know your executive strategy officer and your vice president of operations were sharing more than just quarterly reports. Legal cleared her throat. We'll need a full statement. This is serious. Oh, I know, I said. That's why I'm here. You don't have a PR plan for this, do you? Claire nearly cried. Across the hall, I could see Darren pacing in his glass office, red in the face, Miranda beside him with her phone against her cheek and her heels in her hand. It was chaos in real time. The man who just declared himself a humble leader was now scrambling to control a narrative he no longer owned. I left the room after 30 minutes, walked back to my desk. My inbox had exploded, emails from colleagues I barely knew. Is this real? You're a genius. I always knew something was off about him. One woman, from accounting, wrote, You just did what every betrayed woman dreams of doing. Respect. By lunchtime, HR had sent an emergency company-wide message. Executive leadership transitions will be addressed soon. We ask that all staff refrain from further communication about internal matters. Translation: We're screwed, and we're trying not to go viral. At 3 p.m., Darren finally tried to call me. I ignored him. At 4:17 p.m., I got a text. Darren, we need to talk. This isn't what you think. I didn't think. I knew. That's the difference between you and me. At 4:30, Miranda was escorted out of the building by security. At 5 o'clock, Darren followed, with a box in his hands and not a shred of pride left on his face. And at 5:15, I walked out last. Head high. I didn't look back. The next morning, I woke up to over 200 unread messages. Some were from coworkers, anonymous thank yous sent from personal accounts. Others were media requests. Somehow, someone had leaked the email thread. A burner account on Twitter had posted a thread titled, Corporate Clown Cheats His Way to the Top, and Gets Body Slammed by Wife in Reply All Massacre. It had over 800,000 views. Darren's face was plastered on TikTok. A clip from a staff Zoom call had gone viral. He looked sweaty, stuttering, with someone in the background yelling, Bro's cooked. The company had disabled all comments, but it was too late. They were a trending topic under hashtag leadership goals gone wrong and hashtag reply all revenge. And I was being called corporate Carrie Underwood in the comments. At 10:42 a.m., I filed for divorce. I sent the paperwork to his new apartment. He had moved into a corporate-leased condo 3 towns over, the same one Miranda used to brag about. The irony was delicious. I included a sticky note on the envelope. Strategize this. No signature. Just a lipstick kiss stamped on the bottom. Meanwhile, Miranda was doing damage control the way only narcissists do, by pretending none of it happened. She posted a wellness retreat photo on Instagram with a caption about growth, self-love, and letting go of people who don't serve your higher purpose. Comments were disabled, of course, but the reposts were ruthless. At work, HR pretended everything was under control. But Tom, the CFO, asked to see me privately. I thought maybe they'd try to threaten me into silence. Instead, he closed the door, handed me a manila envelope, and said, We owe you an apology and an opportunity. Inside was a promotion offer, Director of Corporate Communications. The board was impressed, Tom said. You handled a difficult personal matter with discretion, until you didn't. And even then, it was strategic. Translation: You embarrassed us, but we'd rather hire you than face another PR disaster. I stared at the offer. A major pay bump. Private office. Full team. The irony wasn't lost on me. Darren clawed his way to the top by cheating, and I was being offered a better role by burning his lies to the ground. I smiled. I'll think about it. Back at home, I opened a bottle of champagne. Not the cheap one I used to buy for Darren's fake milestones, but the good kind, Moat. I drank from the bottle in my pajamas, scrolling through comments from strangers calling me a hero, a menace, a legend. Funny how people will cheer you on once you stop letting yourself be humiliated. Later that week, my lawyer called. He wants to negotiate. No court. I laughed. Of course he does. But tell him I'm not interested in half. I want everything I paid for. I want the car, the condo, the wedding ring, the coffee machine, and my damn crock-pot. There was a pause. Then, the crock-pot. Yes, I slow-cooked every Sunday while he was cheating. I want it. Within days, Darren's attorney relented. He didn't have the stomach for court, or public humiliation. He just wanted it to end. I wanted it to sting. And as I signed the final documents, pen pressed into the paper like I was sealing a war treaty, I realized something. I never needed revenge. I just needed the truth to stand naked in the room. And now everyone had seen it. I walked into that boardroom in heels he used to mock me for. Too loud, he'd say. Too much. Funny, the same room that once whispered behind my back now stood up when I entered. Every director, every VP, every smug executive who once dismissed me like a shadow behind Darren's spotlight, they were all here. And they weren't smiling. Tom motioned for me to take a seat at the head of the table. Welcome, director. Director. Not Darren's wife. Not the woman who sent that email. Just director. I took a breath. The silence hummed with anticipation. Let's begin, I said. Item 1. Our public image has been shattered. But that's an opportunity. It's time we own the narrative. Miranda's old chair was empty. She had resigned to focus on family. Code 4. We kicked her out before she could take us down with her. She didn't even get a farewell email. In the weeks that followed, I rebuilt our communication strategy from the ground up. We launched a transparency campaign, revamped our HR protocols, and brought in independent ethics auditors. I wasn't just cleaning up Darren's mess, I was torching the whole culture that enabled it. Darren tried to get a job elsewhere. Word spread fast. Apparently, a man who cheats with the CEO's wife and gets exposed in a reply-all email isn't exactly a hot commodity. Last I heard, he was consulting for a startup in Phoenix. Or was it Denver? Honestly, I stopped caring. My inbox was full of people asking for interviews, TED Talks, podcasts. One woman wrote, "You gave us all permission to stop being silent. You made the corporate world bleed a little, and we needed that." I didn't respond. I didn't need applause. I had peace. One day, I found a letter on my desk. No return address. Inside was a single line, scrawled in shaky handwriting. You didn't just burn bridges. You built new roads. Keep walking. I smiled, tucked it into my planner. There are some letters you keep. 3 months in, I was thriving. My team was tight-knit, efficient, loyal. We joked about the email sometimes, called it the purge. But more often, we talked about boundaries, about value, about the cost of silence. And none of us were silent anymore. The office had changed. New policies, new energy. Even the air felt different, less tense, less fake. The leadership retreat that year didn't feature golf or overpriced catering. We did group therapy, financial transparency, real leadership. Turns out, people work harder when they're not dodging daggers in the break room. As for me, I never looked back. I never dated Darren 2.0, never chased a love story. What I built was bigger than revenge, bigger than the drama. I built a life where I didn't need to prove anything, not to a man, not to a board, not even to myself. So here's to the woman who got cheated on, lied to, humiliated, and replied all. Here's to the crock pot. Here's to walking away and not looking back. And here's to the next letter in Ray's inbox. Because this one, it's sealed.